Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
We are back at long last. This is the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, back after a month. Due to my vacation, I came back from Michigan's Upper Peninsula with this lovely beard, which I'm digging. But yeah, we're happy to be back. This is episode 153. I am Charlie Carden, your Trek Lord of West Michigan, your humble servant, joined as always by my number one, Mr. Peter Stein. Good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning.
All right. Well, we are finally upon it. Strange New Worlds has returned from a 2-year hiatus, which I'm sure was intended to be a 1-year hiatus, but the very necessary and well-deserved writer strike did knock that off. And I don't have any problem with that at all, because those people were able to get, exactly what they needed, or a good portion of what they needed. I'm sure not exactly. Yeah, but it's an evolution. But yeah, we are super psyched to be back. We're going to be talking about the first episode of Strange New World Season 3. Although 2 dropped, we were scheduled to do just 1. So that's what we prepared, but that's okay, because we're going to be bringing you episodes 2 and 3 next time. So we'll kind of get ourselves back on pace. But in the meantime, before we get into that, and we have some news, and we have a very special, kind of exciting announcement, we would love to pay homage to the wonderful folks over on our Secret Friends Unite Patreon squad over at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. These great folks, and it could be you as well, get exclusive programs, early shows, no ad, and Discord benefits for free for 7 days, as little as $2 a month. And even that first month can be half off. So there's a lot of great opportunities to get on board for some great entertainment, just like my buddy Derek Trevelyan, the figure dude, Francie, who does my wife's hair, Xbox Expansion Pass, our friend Luke Lore, and my great Uncle Tim down in South Haven, Michigan. Also, John Sedorf, Brendan Myers, Corey and HD, Matthew Keel, my birdie Kurt Krug, who helps us out with those great interviews that we get over on our Patreon Spotlight, Tanya Lee, Chipotle Bear, Famous Seamus, Jay Newport 007, Cam the Movie Man, Brian Osterman, a.k.a. Darth Prozac, and we have our new gentleman who is getting his Star Trek race and job today. That is Mr. FR8, or Freight Conductor. We just call him Freight Conductor. Now, like, again, I did this when we recorded Holocron. I'd sound like Trump, and I'm saying that we just call him Freight Conductor. But yeah, welcome. And then finally, before we circle back and hook him up with that race and job, we are always very grateful for the patronage of our Secret Friends Super Squad, the awesome Nias family out there in the Twin Cities. Sean, Stella, and Henry, thank you for all that you do for us. And again, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. 7 days for free. Half off your first month, and as little as $2 a month. But Mr. Freight Conductor, Star Trek race and job. Now, when we were talking on Holocron in our wrap-up episode with Mark, which has yet to drop, but you'll be hearing it very soon, we all got sucked into the fact that FR8 made us think about, we all picked it, he's a droid, because that's like a droid designation. But it's got to be a little different in the Star Trek, but kind of similar. I know what I'm thinking, but Peter, why don't you give it a stab?
I was going to go similar but different. I was going to go for. Actually, I just had a change of mind. You're going to be a Binar.
Ooh.
Because you have a number in there, which I know I got hung up on last time, but this time it makes a little more sense. So we'll have you be a Binar, and generally they're computer technicians, but we're going to do something a little bit different.
Right.
So remember, Binar's coming too, so you got a friend with you all the time.
FR8 and FR either 7 or 9.
I guess
7 or 9. 7 or of 9.
But you are going to be a flight instructor at Starfleet Academy.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is that a little difficult to for them to give instructions? They're all just like blah, 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 blah.
Well, they can speak normally, somewhat. So they
Right.
just need to have their pair with them to make sure that any words that get lost are stated. So
Right.
besides, cockpits often have a jump seat, so
Right. There you go. You just have to have the heads up display, which I'm sure is how we'll all be driving our cars into a wall at some point in the future. Like, this is so great.
turn left.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in the lake. Oh my God. Well, I mean, I'm going to take the lazy route because I think FR8, so it's a designation, so it's a Borg. And what a Borg do? I mean, they all have different jobs, though, right? So, so there's got to be a team on a Borg cube that just drives the cube itself because they're a conductor. So this is a Borg cube conductor. What kind of cube? Probably a Borg. What are the one that kind of looks like a Mars bar, like the Borg? That's not the
Oh yeah,
like the Scout. No, that's not the Scout. The Scout's a real little. I'm trying to remember now. Like a real sphere is often a Scout, right? But what do they call the long one?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I haven't played Star Trek Online in a hot minute. So.
Got you. Which is where they give all that stuff, that kind of name.
Where they give all that information.
Gotcha. So that's what I'm giving you, friend. You are a conductor of a Borg Mars bars shaped vehicle. Whatever that would be, and certainly add us at socials and shame us, and we'll even take it for not remembering what is the designation of that particular Borg vehicle.
Borg parallelogram in 3D.
Ooh, that could be a great name for the episode. Yeah, because I was already trying to riff off of. Let's see here. Let me change that up here. The Borg, but whoops, not Cyborg. The Borg parallelogram. Nope, didn't spell it. Yep, spelled it right. Nope, didn't spell it right. In 3D. I like it. I know this makes for great radio, doesn't it, folks? Anyway, I'll fix that later. So yeah, all right. Well, thank you again, all Patreons. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. We'd love to have you on board. It's a lot of entertainment for as little as $2 a month. My goodness. All right. I really fractured our segments for this show because I usually have segment and a half if we have some news, which we do have some news stories, but I fractured it down to a quarter because we have an extra special announcement, which I vaguely hinted about. And if you listen to other shows, you probably already know about this. But Peter and I, with Mark, taking a step back from podcasting, he's going into semi-retirement and getting off kind of the weekly rigmarole of doing the two shows on our network. Has handed over the reins of the Holocron Chronicles, which is the Star Wars show that we do on this network, to Peter and myself. I started the show back in late 2020 with Mark after some conversation about, hey, we need a Star Wars show because I was kind of covering The Mandalorian in part on this show with my partner at the time because we wanted somewhere that we could do deep dives into it, and that was not really what Secret Friends Unite, the main show, was set up for. And that led us into having a Star Wars show where we could do just that. So Peter has been here with me on this show since very early on, about a year in, since 2021, and doing deep dives is what we specialize in. So it's kind of our plan to apply that methodology over to Holocron. When we started Holocron, it might be hard to remember, but the focus of that was I was taking my idea with the show was taking a page from what they do over on the Star Wars Explained YouTube channel, which is one that I like very much. Alex and his wife host that show. That's the name of the host of that program, though he's the primary. And they do deep dives on a monthly basis of media that had come out. We tried that format. It didn't really work for us. And I don't know that it would necessarily work for Peter and myself, but what our focus will be is kind of similar to what you hear here. We're going to choose something that's media. There are less episodes, obviously, of Star Wars than there are of Star Trek, but there are great canon and non-canon sources of comics and books and video games. Comics may end up being more of a focus just because it's a little easier for us to read them. Because if I say, hey, read this book and we'll talk about this book, we got to scramble through a book. And that's not a specialty of mine. Scrambling through a book, I'm really bad at it.
I love reading books, but I don't always have time to read them quickly.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to rule that. And the game stuff, you know what? We've talked before, like Mark will be like, we'll do a we'll do a Star Wars game, and I'll watch the cutscenes of it, and we'll talk about the story content of it, which I think is cool. So I'm not ruling any of that out. But one thing, and Peter, I know that you'll be with me on this. One thing that has always rankled me, and this came from years of doing Comic-Cons when I was active with the Starfleet International and having a booth at shows, is somebody who needs to swing by and tell you why Star Wars is better than Star Trek. Like somebody's going to tell me that, and I'm just going to throw my arms up and start arguing with them. So my real vibe, and the two of us handling these two programs, is to maybe show the universe, as it were, that these franchises are completely have nothing to do with each other. And we love Star Trek here. We love Star Wars over there, and that's how we're going to treat it. We're going to treat it like this is a great, rich universe of great stories. We're going to take these great stories, whether it's a comic arc, whether it's an arc on one of the shows that we've not talked about. I have a whole list of arcs from the Clone Wars, arcs from Rebels, and we'll get into arcs from the Bad Batch in time as that goes by.
Or like the Thrawn trilogy from the expanded universe.
Exactly. So we'll take those and we'll drill them down in a segment. We'll talk about really what that means. So, boy, this is going to end up being a longer episode than I thought. But, Peter, anything you want to say to the audience as we embark on this journey?
All I'll say is get excited. We've got some stuff planned that'll be fun, and we're looking forward to exploring a galaxy far, far away with a similar method as we do here.
Absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to that. So you'll be seeing that a little bit later on this summer. Because we have recorded Mark's kind of last episode. Once that's out, we'll pick up after that. And I think you'll be excited with what we've done. So, all right. Well, we have a couple of news items because, again, we were off for almost a month. So some news happened. We have an interview with Akiva Goldsman, who is driving the bus over at Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which we're going to talk about in a moment here. And his hope, and this is something that we've talked about, Peter and I, we have some similar ideas about this. We have some different ideas about this. But we did learn back in June that Strange New Worlds was reviewed for a 5th and final season, which is going to be 6 episodes, shorter than the norm of the 10. That might give one cause to wonder if those 6 episodes will have like a serious focus. Maybe that'll be a 6-part story, like a little micro movie. But that really at the end of that 6-episode run, that will segue right into what is essentially considered to be the traditional beginning of Star Trek, the original series, with Paul Wesley's Kirk as captain. Do keep in mind where we sit with Strange New Worlds. After a time jump that I'll go ahead and spoil it since it happened already in episode 2. There's a time jump of approximately a year between the first episode of season 3 of Strange New Worlds and the second episode, because that second episode, Peter, and if I'm getting a spoiler out there, I apologize, because I haven't rewatched it, but that's the episode we'll talk about next time. The Enterprise has returned to Earth, and it's kind of focused around events of Federation Day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Remember correctly? Mm-hmm. Federation Day, for those who know, was 2161. So an anniversary of it would take place in a 61. So this would be 2261, the 100th anniversary. Well, we know that the first season of the original Star Trek series took place in 2265. So Kirk will become a captain within that time. So what do you think? What do you think of that concept?
I like the idea of the lead up. As I've said before, I don't like the idea of redoing the original series. So like I think it'll be interesting to see how, especially if they're doing the full lead up, how they're going to introduce all the characters that we see on the Enterprise in Where No Man Has Gone Before, because most of the cast as we know them are there, except for McCoy and Chekhov.
Right.
So
right.
We'll probably see McCoy anyway, because everyone forgets that he wasn't in that pilot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Chekhov wasn't at all, so they can really sail through. The only character that they would potentially bring in at this point is staff physicist Hikaru Sulu, because that was his job in that first pilot.
Yeah, he was in the science department.
We're in that blue uniform, so they could that could be a character they bring in season 4 and work him in. Though actually, I take that back, because I'm remembering from one of the first scenes of that episode, after the credits roll, bunch of people show up on the bridge, and it's new people that joined the ship at Starbase or whatever, and it's Dr. Daner, who is Sally, what's her face? Sally Kellerman, who was in the film version of MASH in 1970. And then Sulu was staying behind her. I don't think they explicitly say that he was a new crew person at that time, but I feel like that was the implication. But regardless.
And then they don't have to introduce Sulu if they don't want to. But
right, exactly. So, yeah, I think this would be a good direction to go in. And then as far as the follow-on series, like I said, I don't know rebooting TOS, but I mean, my thought process for a long time is, why not tell some stories woven within the fabric of TOS? I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world. I mean,
it wouldn't. I just hesitate partially because I'm a big TOS fan, and also because I don't want to further the issue of being like, the TOS version is terrible, I'll watch these instead. I don't want to.
It's problematic, to say the best. And I guess the ultimate question is, what can we, it's kind of like how I feel about Kenobi. The Star Wars series. Look, now I'm flipping the script. We're bringing Star Wars into this show, about how they were playing with fire doing the series in the first place canonically, but to keep it going, you're opening yourself up to more problems.
You're opening it's not quite Pandora's box, but if you decide to go through with it, it is.
Right. Yeah, exactly correct. So we will see. Right now, obviously, we have season 3 to enjoy. We have a full season 4, which, as I understand it, is about at the halfway mark for production. So I would imagine they will complete that before the, maybe early fall. Produce it for a year, and then we'll end up seeing it next year. So I look forward to that. So
probably hop on production for season 5 pretty quickly.
Now that they have a plan, a roadmap. So, all right. Well, by the time you're listening to this, the weekend that follows will be San Diego Comic-Con, the annual super duper event that happens in San Diego. It's been going on since the early 70s, and it's grown to be quite the media explosion. Well, Star Trek is going to have a healthy presence in Paramount Plus's The Lodge, helping to promote both Strange New Worlds, which obviously is on right now, and Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which wrapped production a little earlier this year, and we were all expecting to see in 2026. So, so for the third year in a row, Paramount is bringing The Lodge back to the Gaslamp District during San Diego Comic-Con. I'm assuming that's a portion of San Diego. I've never been there, but that sounds pretty exciting. So kind of interactive experiences. By this photo, it looks like this is where you can have a drink and perhaps also get your hair done. I'm not exactly sure. It's kind of a weird. Yeah. It looked like it's a bar or a table, or maybe. Oh, okay. Now it looks like a bar. Now I get
Intergalactic Love Lounge.
I like it, which you will find out with one of the upcoming episodes we'll see here in season 3, how kind of apropos that is to something that's coming up in a very fun way. I will say, as again, I mean, I've said I've seen the first 5 episodes because of the screener I received, and there's some fun stuff coming up. So San Diego Comic-Con is it's the place to be. It's also a tough place to kind of get to. I don't know that I'll ever make it there in my lifetime, but I do like the visibility of Star Wars being pushed out there, Look at this. My brain is already blending our 2 programs. I love the visibility. I don't even really know what Star Wars' visibility is going to be this year at San Diego Comic-Con. But Star Trek, I'm glad to see them representing. I'm very excited, obviously, for Starfleet Academy, because they're wholly making a show that takes place in a separate timeline where they're just not going to have to deal with the baggage of kind of dancing in between continuity, which is the danger with Discovery and Strange New Worlds that we've had so far. So I'm excited about this. But yeah, if you are going to San Diego Comic-Con, you're listening to the sound of my voice. And again, we're taking this off of an article from Trek Movie, which is where we get a lot of our news. The Lodge is taking over the Happy Does Bar on Fifth Avenue in San Diego from Wednesday, July 23, 6 to 10, Thursday, July 24 through Sunday, and then again on July 27. Free admission, and again, that is outside of the count, so you don't have to have a badge to go. So that's pretty fun. And yeah, if this ever ends up something that I end up doing, I will go and have a drink at an establishment like this. I think it's pretty cool. So excellent. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's main event it. We're getting into talking about Strange New Worlds, season 3, the first episode, and it is a cliffhanger. Episode 1 is called Hegemony Part 2. Hegemony Part 1, obviously, being the cliffhanger that we left back in the summer of 2023. After the Gorn attack Parnassus, Beta, Pike, and the crew of the Enterprise have serious choices to make. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, let's just get right on into it. So, Peter, I watched it for the second time this morning, and I did, I took some notes. I had seen it probably a month or so, maybe closer to 2 months ago when I first got my screener. So it was a little fuzzy to me, but I first and foremost, I wrote the recap is vital if you've not watched any part of the show since 2023. If you didn't do a rewatch, you didn't watch any YouTube clips, if you don't, because you might not have any idea what's going on. But anyway, take me into it. What do we got going on here?
So I think we start with, like, the away team has been captured by the Gorn. The ship is under attack. And so we have this whole thing where they are trying to rescue the away team, but they can't. And so they end up chasing this Gorn ship for a hot minute.
You're right.
And eventually they pull a wharf, they ram through the shields. And then fire off a tracker, and then zip back to let Starfleet Command know that, oh no, the Gorn are all showing up and they're going to attack everybody.
It's gonna get Gorn. I wrote, let's try spinning. That's a good trick. That whole first shot where it's just like,
yeah. There was a really weird camera moment too, where Mike was standing in front of the view screen and we did the.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Did I see this? Might be totally off kilter, but they're showing the view screen when all that's going on, and immediately to the right or starboard, I feel like the communication station is the last one on the edge, which it never used to be. No. Did you notice that? Is that something?
It kind of migrates whenever they want her to be closer to the camera.
Yeah,
because a lot of times it is where it's supposed to be, back by the turbo lift, but then sometimes she's not there.
Right.
So.
I mean, I suppose that makes sense. If all the stations have the same buttons, you could just be like, we're moving you over here.
If you're following the next generation version where the buttons can change a bit depending on what you're doing, then it makes sense. Old school TOS wasn't that way because it was hard, because the idea was that it was hardwired just like computers at the time. That's what it was, hardware based, but it
was all plasticky buttons you could push.
Yes.
So they pop off and they hook up with Admiral April, who is, I wrote, he's on the USS Pablo Picasso, and this is ironic. I've never really loved starships that have two names, which is funny because when we had an SFI chapter, we named it Grand Petoskey, but even that, I'm like, it just doesn't really roll off the tongue. I mean
sometimes it works depending on how the name goes together, but there's sometimes it's just too many syllables.
Yeah. And there's real life precedent with navies around the world. There's, the USS Ronald Reagan and blah, blah, blah. But I was just, obviously people would just call that ship the Picasso or whatever. But I'm just, no, it's a minor thing. We didn't mention from part 1 that Captain's girlfriend, who's also a captain, Battelle, is also been stung by a Gorn. She's been xenomorphed. She goes full Ripley and she's kill me before I change. And they're trying to find a medical reason to, or medical way to spare.
This was one of the things in this episode that drove me up a wall. I complain about their version of the Gorn pretty loudly. But I think that the medical thing that they did in this one didn't make sense, particularly because they already broke continuity with the transporter in season 1. It's like, she can't go into stasis. First of all, you don't need a drug to go into stasis. Last time I checked,
you just freeze them like Bucky in Marvel,
button and it's a stasis field, and you're fine. So they didn't do that, and then it was like, oh well, we have no other options. You have the pattern buffer,
right?
You already proved you can do that,
right? That's how Scott, and ironically, Scotty, who joins the cast as a semi-irregular in this episode, that's how he survived.
Scotty a little weirdly in this episode.
Yeah, because he's sparring with Pelia, who is a Carol Kane, who's an actress I adore.
It's a very interesting moment where they're trying to have Pelia be the one who gives Scotty his miracle worker attitude.
Yeah, it kind of feels like
a little
Solo.
It feels a little forced.
Yeah,
where it's like, let Scotty be Scotty. He can be a dweeb and decide that he's a miracle worker on his own.
Right.
He doesn't. We don't. It's one of the things that I have a little bit of qualms about when you do prequels is like, we need to give a reason why someone is the way that they are, and we have to have a new character bring that change. And it's like, some people are just that way because they are that way. Like, we don't always need an explanation. Like, for instance, my nerdiness about Star Trek, you would have to go really, really, really far back if you wanted an explanation for it. But if they were to do a TV show about me now, we'd go 5 years ago, and you would come into the story, and now you gave me my love for Star Trek, even though that doesn't make sense canonically.
Right. Yeah. So. But dramatically, it's a good turn. Yeah. It reminds me very much of, people put it down, but I still enjoyed lots of parts of it, of the Solo, the Star Wars movie, because it was like, well, where did Han get his dice? Where did he get his gun? Where did he get his attitude about stuff? And it was a lot of that it all came from Woody Harrelson's character. It's like, who cares? You know, where did he get Millennium Falcon and how did he meet Lando and blah, blah. So it's just like stuff that doesn't really
don't need an explanation because a lot of times the explanation is worse than what your imagination is.
Right. So because they're trying so hard.
Leave it alone.
It is a serious case of trying so hard. The away team that got kidnapped, they're wrapped up in these pods like from V, which was a show from the limited series, and then the Matrix.
V and Mass Effect and Matrix.
Yeah, there you go.
Like they've been pulling from modern Star Trek has been pulling from Mass Effect really heavily.
Yeah.
Like really heavily.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of, it was funny to me when I first saw La'an wake up. I was like, this is a pod on a collector ship. Yeah. And then she gets out and like, no, seriously, these are pods on a collector ship.
Yeah, right.
And then it's like, oh, they're being processed for fuel. This is a collector ship. Like,
yeah.
it was just a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, Ortegas comes out. She's injured, but she says, "Oh, half my head. She's missing a finger, so she's bleeding from that, which sucks."
2 fingers.
Yeah, which is but she's bleeding enormously. But she's still later on. She's got a rifle because they find their weapons in a refuse pile. And let's see what else here. Now we get into kind of what's my minor grind with this episode is the whole Chaplain Spock thing. I'm super done with it. It gets bad in this. It's amusing in the next episode in some ways, but in some ways it's not. So it's like, at the end of she gives him this whole, hey, I'm going away. Don't wait for me. I'm like, you got 7 years for him to wait. But then again, Ponfar is, I guess, optional. Now I just, you know what, we can talk about that for a long time. So, yeah. That's a real mess. And it's like, so now we have a big plan. Well, we've determined this and that. The Gorn attack thing goes on a schedule, and then maybe they also hibernate.
Particular pattern of this binary star system.
Yeah, so we're going down and the Gorns have a Stargate. It's jammed between 2 stars, and
and then they decide to best of both worlds it in the end.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely. Back with Marie Battelle, it's time for crazy experimental surgery. I gotta be honest with you. I would have been a lot more impressed story-wise if she died, because that
would have been a bold story choice.
I think it would have been more impactful to Pike. If you think about it, we're only 4 or 5 years away from Pike having his life-altering accident.
I mean, she clearly has to leave his life at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
She's not there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she would, if they were if they were married or whatever it is, and he was crippled, he wouldn't have been on his own when we meet him in the menagerie. So this could have been the way that she goes, but they could still do that. This just was super duper tropey to me, and I didn't care for it. And again, I don't really love to advocate like, well, let's kill off a character that's important to our main character, but I think it could have really been a nice.
Well, there's a difference between noting what would be a good character beat, and that would be an interesting character beat. Whereas,
I agree.
Survival was the easy. I think the thing with this episode is it kind of felt like they just found the easy way out of all the problems that they wrote themselves into at the end of the clip.
Yeah. It does really feel, and this could be a new name of the episode, the easy button episode.
Yeah,
Because,
like
I
mean, the Gorn are like, obviously there's something that happens in the end of the next episode where it's like the Gorn we're not done with them yet. Like, we're gonna see them again,
right?
But
yeah, I just, the whole thing with the Gorn, they're xenomorphs like the aliens, but they also have opposable thumbs, can shoot weapons and fly ships.
They want their cake. They want to eat their cake and have it too.
This is which is funny because I use the exact same expression for Chapel later on, because she does I said, screw you, Christine. One does not have one's cake and eat it too with your long, lusty glances and your kisses on the cheek. That pisses me off because
she is totally leading Spock on in a way that's not healthy for either of them.
I have 100% had girlfriends like that or been in a romantic entanglement like that, and it sucks. And again, more to the point of where we meet these characters in TOS, they don't have this kind of relationship. What you have is you have Chapel lusting after Spock from afar, and him really kind of teasing her. Look at Amok Time, where she's bringing him the soup, and then they have a tender moment in his quarters, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but that's excited by Pon farr. Most of the rest of the time, he kind of ignores her.
Right, exactly. But she pines for him, so
I read somewhere where someone was like, oh, this makes her such a better character. And I'm like, but it's not necessarily realistic in the sense that unrequited love does exist in the world, and why not take the opportunity to portray that in a little bit more of a healthy way, and maybe show how Chapel is attempting to deal with it, rather than just like, well, the solution to unrequited love in a character in the 60s is by making that love requited, and now we have a relationship. That's not a good writing solution, I don't think.
Agreed.
Which I know I'm nitpicking, but it's one of those things of it feels like it was just kind of we want to do this, and it's like, but maybe there's a better way.
Right. Right. So it really kind of chapped my ass, as it were. Chapel. I can't make Chapel my ass the name of the episode. I'd love to though.
The medical stuff was kind of my biggest pet peeve of this particular episode.
And again, she's a nurse, which doesn't mean that she's not a trained medical professional, but
practitioners can be really amazing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have my main, care person is my nurse practitioner type person, and she's amazing, but I didn't really think that's what she was, and she's also not Starfleet, but her qualification, but in TOS
that like so
much.
In
the TOS she's just a straight up nurse. They don't really give her a lot of credit. She's like Dr. McCoy, following him around with shit, and it was very 60s.
Does some stuff, but not a lot.
And
I do like the fact that they've given her more agency, but there's sometimes it's a little too much, because it's like she's a nurse and yet she's figured out how to do this DNA altering serum and this and that and the other thing. It's like, you should be in a research station doing amazing stuff if this is what you're doing.
Yeah, you should not be hanging around on this starship just cause.
And not like, an assistant.
Right, exactly. She's far too smart to be an assistant. So I did like this fun. I did like Pike's prayer moment at the end where he says, "Okay, Dad," because he almost never talks about his father, but you can clearly tell there's a rift. His father being a religious guy, Pike obviously not being one. But I did love it how even at the tough of times, some of us who resist that kind of thing will speak to God, and I liked that. I liked that very much.
I thought it was a nice little it was a humanizing moment that is often avoided, and I thought that it was a good thing to include. Yeah.
But that being said, and with the episode wrapping up, I was definitely not impressed by this episode. I'm glad to say that there's so much better ahead. Like the other 4 episodes that I've seen, I enjoyed them all, but this was, God, I'm even going to move my rating down, but this was there is one thing that I need to say that was neat visually, is we had a redesign of the environmental suit from TOS that was actually well done.
Right. It still had the goofy pattern on it. It was just a little more subdued, and it wasn't a mesh screen. It was actually glass.
Right. So that's good.
There was a really cool I will give them this. It was a cool redesign of the environmental suit.
Right. Yeah, it's some stuff right some of the times. But anyway, so ratings wise, this was like a 5 out of 10 for me. And I feel really conflicted because I'm psyched to have the show back. But this episode for me was one convenient plot development after another, jammed with a lot of hackneyed, well-worn tropes and twists and turns that, like you said, didn't make any sense and didn't go anywhere. The getting rid of the Gorn for the hibernation bit is just kind of the worst example of the first part of what I said.
Someone watched Best of Both Worlds, liked the sleep data moment, and just went with it, and it didn't work very well.
Yeah, I mean, the cliffhangers are tough. And having a cliffhanger that's 2 years apart from the first portion and the second portion. I mean, and again, they probably filmed this a year ago, so, respect on that. But I would imagine it can be tougher because, when Larry has been with us the couple of times, and I don't know how much of Best of Both Worlds we touched upon, that was a very difficult one because the writers very famously took a break. They came back in the early summer of 1990, and they said, how are we going to wrap this up?
Pillar didn't even know how it was supposed to end because he wasn't sure he was going to be there.
Mm-hmm. So. And they didn't know if Stewart was going to be there because he had a contract negotiation that summer. And they didn't know if it was gonna work out, and they were just gonna have to kill him off, and then Frakes was gonna take the show over. But that's not. I didn't get the vibe here. We didn't go, and catch 22. To try to play devil's advocate. It's tough. Tropes are everywhere. A lot of people use them. It's tough to get away from them. Sure, I get it, but I just don't feel like they did enough to make this deliver on what I thought was a relatively strong first half. I'd have to go back and see how I rated that one, but this was, to me, was not a worthy successor. What about you? Where does your ratings land out of 10?
Probably about the same.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to be mean, so probably a 5. Just because similar reasons, and there was a lot of plot contrivances. The tropes don't bother me as much as plot contrivance and Deus Ex Machina. Yeah. And there was just too much of that. Where it's like, hey, we're gonna channel the power of the sun in the palm of the Enterprise's shields, and it was like,
why not?
Okay, transphasic shields don't exist until the 24th century, and that was really rough when they did that the first time.
Right.
So there were just too many Deus Ex Machina moments.
Yeah.
And people surviving things that's like, Ortegas takes the size of 2 shovels right up her gut, and she stays alive for 30 minutes, which is hemorrhaging all over the place.
Which she spent all the time flying the ship, and she's like, blah, blah, how much blood does this poor woman have?
Yeah, it's God. Like, you should be unconscious or dead.
Yeah, I mean,
to their credit, at the end, they were like, oh, she's in critical, but she's stable. Okay, well, at least we acknowledge that she's almost died.
Yeah, right. They didn't put her in stasis, but, apparently stasis is not all as correct up to be. Yeah, yikes. All right. Well, like I said, I promise, let me promise that the show is more fun from here. Peter, you've obviously already seen episode 2, I assume.
Yep.
And so we're in our next episode, hopefully being rejoined by a guest. We will talk about episodes 2 and 3. And I think we'll have more fun doing it. But yes, that's the wrap on episode 1. And now we begin the beginning of the end. This is so very bittersweet. And I even messaged you earlier this week, and I said this show had no right to be as good as it is. But we're starting the final season of Deep Space Nine, airing from the 98 to 99 season. This was my last year in college. But I was still tuning in and watching every week, and my mom was at home taping them for me so I could watch them afterwards and stuff, which is so funny. I used to have this army of VHS tapes of these episodes, and now they're just on your TV. Just turn them on and they're just there.
And click or go to streaming.
Exactly. So, but this is incredible. We're going to be covering the first 6 episodes. And my God, Peter, so I know I probably ask you every time, when was the first time that you saw these for the first time?
The first time I watched DS9 season 7 was the spring or summer of 2010.
Okay.
So I was watching it almost a little over a decade later.
Yeah.
Just because we didn't watch Deep Space Nine when it was on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if some of it was my dad wasn't there was just a lot going on, and so we just didn't. And then we didn't have television for a while. But and then after these things were off the air, it wasn't the easiest to find them to watch.
Yeah, they bounced around a lot if you didn't have the discs.
Yeah, so I remember seeing this, and I remember that the first time I saw Image in the Sand, it was kind of a,
Yeah.
I know that the next one, Shadows and Symbols, I had a little bit more of a stronger reaction to.
Okay.
But we already know why if you've seen this show and what I've talked about already.
All right, let's jump into this then. All right, episode 1 is Image in the Sand. Les Landau handling the directing. Ira, Stephen Bear, and Hans Beimler doing the writing. So you got 2 of the top dudes from September of '98. With the Bajoran wormhole collapse, Sisko struggles to find a way to connect with the Bajoran prophets. The Romulans receive permission from the Bajorans to open a military hospital on the Bajoran moon of Derna. General Martok offers Worf a way to gain admission to Stovacor for Jadzia, and we meet Ensign Ezri Dax, the new host of the Dax Symbiote, at the very last moment of this episode, which, I'll just go ahead and jump in and do 2 as well, because it was kind of a 2-parter, and I read the first
officially a 2-parter, but it is.
Yeah. Shadows and Symbols is that second episode with Alan Craker handling the directorship, veteran guy. Ira and Hans still on the writing for the first week of October of 1998. I mentioned a new Dax is on the scene. Sisko is now questing, leading him to the truth of his existence on a moon called, it was on the tip of my tongue, doesn't matter. It's on the moon. The discovery that the Romulan hospital is heavily armed leads Colonel Kira to set up a blockade. Oh, this was even before episode 1. Star Trek did it first. Bashir O'Brien and surprisingly Quark, it's not that surprising, join Worf and Martok on a dangerous mission that all happens on a ship, so it's not like they have to fist fight anybody.
They stand on the bridge most of the time. Yeah, it's hilarious. But
it's a lot of standing and yelling to destroy a Dominion shipyard. Okay, Peter, since you're having some strong thoughts, why don't you jump in first and foremost?
Okay. Really, the only strong thought, the really strong thought I have was on the moon, particularly because we go back to the Benny bit from Far Beyond the Stars.
Right.
As I've said before, I've never really been a fan of that. Now, it's clear from this that this is the Palwraith screwing with Sisko.
Right. Right.
So it's not pulling the same meta that Far Beyond the Stars was, which I'm so glad they didn't do what they thought about doing with that.
Fair. Got it.
So in that sense, it does kind of ameliorate some of the that I have for that episode. Because it's like, oh no, this is just a Palwraith screwing with Sisko.
Yeah.
But there's some really interesting stuff in the first episode with the Romulans.
Mm-hmm.
So these are Romulans as they're supposed to be written. Right?
So delightfully treacherous, isn't it?
Delightfully treacherous and devious, and doing it with a complete straight face, and then pulling the "oh, you wound me" when you figure them out, and be like, "No, you can't do that." Clutch
the pearl. Ooh, Romulan pearl clutching. New name of the episode.
Pearl clutchers. Because the representative that we get from the Romulan Empire is hilarious in the sense that she really butters up to Kira. Here she is standing. I'm going to try a Jumja stick. Oh, I've never seen a Romulan try a Jumja stick. There's all of this just back and forth. You're like,
and she's
maybe,
you should try a Romulan Ozil twist. They're very tart. They're oh, we're going to be past now.
There's a little bit of banter. And okay, maybe this could be a Romulan character that's going to stick around and be decent. Because we had the one Romulan that helped on the Defiant for a little bit before she,
and it was Seska, Martha Hackett. Yeah.
And so there's just there's this moment where you're okay, maybe the Romulans are going to be cool, and then you get to the next episode, and it's and no.
And scene. I love Kira sparring with Admiral Ross.
That's also really good
because she's non-Starfleet. She can just basically tell him to fuck off, and she's like, "Well, I'm not really asking," and she's like, "Well, I know you're not really asking, but fuck you."
It's I don't have to ask. I'm a representative of the government that owns the moon. I don't have to follow what Starfleet.
Yeah, exactly.
says.
I don't work for you, dude. He's kind of where he's done. Well, if Sisko was here, wouldn't be probably he'd just do it. I told him, but he's not. You got her, and she's a badass.
Credit Ross does kind of back her once he's given the ammunition to do so.
Right. And he realizes that she's right. You know, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, because, there's this moon that there's a legitimate Romulan hospital there, and they have good reasons for it being there because Romulan territory is hell and far away from DS9. But in addition to a moon, they have like these
on the absolute other side of the Federation.
Exactly. It's the journey of several weeks at the shortest. They also outfit this moon with like hundreds of like huge missile batteries, which for the Bajorans, it's like, that's super not cool because
it's
you
like
have
the
those
Cuban Missile Crisis. You're
it's
parking
precisely
nukes right next to us.
These aren't for you, but they totally could be in a hot second. So it's cool to see. And Kara takes the equivalent of like a fleet of Ford Escorts or Yugos or other shitty cars.
There's a whole fleet of Ford Pintos, and we're going to tell you to piss off.
Yeah, and you're driving up in a fleet of Cadillac Escalades, exactly. There was a cool game of brinksmanship. Odo by her side, so we have a lot of great Odo Kira character moments in these two. Yeah, so these were two very enjoyable episodes. So I liked it. Loved seeing the splendid Canadian actress Nicole DeBoer, who I've met in person. We met her on the cruise as Esri Dax. She's about this tall, which is hilarious because Terry Farrell is a very tall woman. She's not quite as tall as I am, but she's up there,
just about 6 foot.
She's maybe 5'10", I think. I mean, like I said, I've met her
just about my height.
Yeah,
I'm like just skirting.
And I think they do a great job of making Jadzia very sure of herself, very confident, and Esri, who's anything but, really stand out. And that does continue to evolve into the next episode where we learn very much more about Esri as a character. But great season opener. And I was talking with April this morning, describing talk about this recording and saying, I feel like this is the only season of a show where the flaws were so completely minimalized. We did not, and we may get into these episodes and I may be reminded like, oh, that episode really sucked. But great start, incredible finale that to me is still unmatched in all of Star Trek. I don't think anybody else gets it more right than the finale of the season, but we will certainly talk about that when we get there. But yeah, top shelf stuff. All right, moving on. Number 3 is yours.
Okay. Episode 3, After Image, directed by Les Landau, written by Renee Chavarria, aired October 14th of 98. Everyone who knew Jadzia Dax reacts strongly to Esri Dax's presence, particularly Worf. Gee, I wonder why. Garak also suffers from bad attacks of claustrophobia. He lives on a space station, and he has claustrophobia. This is a great mix.
Right. And unfortunately, it's the only place apparently in the galaxy he's able to live and not, be murdered. So he's kind of stuck.
Yeah, can't go down to Bajor or get murdered. Can't go to Cardassia. He definitely won't even make it. Can't go to Earth. They'll be like, why the hell are you here? And they'll put him in prison.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the place he gets to be in his little shop. Great episode. We launch into what's essentially in some ways a brand new character. What do they always say? Shot with 60% new footage because it's an existing character, but it's also a new character. Yeah. But they do a great job of exploring her. I remember a media article at the time, and this reference will mean nothing to you, but there was a show on Fox in the late 90s called Ally McBeal. I suppose you probably never heard of it. The star of it was an actress named Callista Flockhart, who later married Harrison Ford and subsequently doesn't act anymore. But she was this like young lawyer trying to find her way in the world and yada, yada, yada. And every episode was about her love life and this thing and that thing. So someone referred to this character as Ally McTrill, which was a fairly, because, Esri's character in this is just like, I don't know who I am and this thing and that thing. And I got this memory and here's Worf and it's complicated and this thing and that thing.
I do quite enjoy how there's the whole thing of like, she orders Rectigino. Why did you order that? I hate it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, yeah. So I came to absolutely love Esri in this episode. Great characterization for Garak, who we've not really dealt much with his claustrophobia since the Dominion, the Dominion prison episode. It's two-parter and has a long name. And by Inferno's Light and something, this shadow something or other.
Yeah,
back in season 5, that kicked off the Cardassians joining the Dominion. That's what happened in that 2-parter. Tremendous episode. I think they did really well. I loved Worf thinking that, like kind of assaulting slightly Dr. Bashir, like thinking that he was hitting on her, and Bashir strong enough to kind of push his hand off, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. Because he's Khan. Great episode. Absolutely loved it.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's fun. I always enjoy episodes with Andrew Robinson coming back as Garrick. Garrick is one of my favorite characters. So any excuse for Garrick to do Garrick things is great. Especially when Garrick has his moments of like his hyperventilating freakouts. There's just, the way that he handles that is just hilarious.
Yeah.
Especially how they do like the camera angles, because it's always like, it's just really funny. Like it's well done, but it
I'm having claustrophobia.
Makes me giggle because it's just an interesting camera choice.
Yeah, right.
It's also really funny how like Ezri's trying to help and then she triggers her own panic attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, while she's still trying to figure everything out. Like eventually it all solves itself out, but it's kind of funny where you have like she's still getting used to this whole troll thing. She's just tripping over herself in every which way, even though she was competent in this job before, and now just like,
No, so
it's just funny. And then there's this whole scene where it's like she tries to quit. Cisco gets like all uppity about it, and then at the end of the episode, she's like, "I want to rescind my paperwork to get transferred." Yeah. He's like, "I never sent it."
Yeah, right.
Because I knew you would figure this out.
I know. Yeah, I love that in particular. That was good.
It's one of those really cool moments where it's like, because at the beginning of the show with Emissary, you have Jadzia being there for Cisco at a transition. From being first officer and having lost everything to now being in command of Deep Space Nine. And now you have Cisco's like, I get to have the opportunity to help Dax acclimatize. And so you can kind of see him reveling in that. Like he's definitely there as like, I'm your friend and I legitimately want to help. But you can kind of see in the background a little bit of that. I get to hold this over Dax's head for a minute.
Right.
Exactly.
Kind of for the first time.
There's a little bit of childish glee.
Yeah. I didn't really think about it that way, but nailed it. Oh. All right. Oh my God. This next episode is one of those. And again, I usually have these on in the background when I'm like if I have an office day and I'm working. So I'm like, that's how I get them in because I've seen them so many times. I don't really need to sit there and take notes and stuff. But I found myself stopping at appropriate moments to just really watch and enjoy. But this is episode 4 is Take Me Out to the Holosuite. Chip Chalmers doing the directing, written by Ron Moore. Just
he gets these characters.
I cannot wait for an opportunity to talk to Ron one-on-one, which I think will be coming up on our spotlight at some point in the future over on our Patreon. From October of 98, Cisco must train his staff to play baseball. When Vulcan Captain Solak, an old rival of his, arrives and challenges Cisco to a game while his ship is being repaired. Oh my God. There is nothing about this episode that doesn't fire on all 8 cylinders.
Shenanigans. All the shenanigans.
It's so great. I do love, and I read at the time, and I'd have to pull the book off of my shelf or look it up on the internet, and we don't need to waste time doing that they filmed this, they filmed the bulk of the episode, which is the game, so on a real baseball field, at a local college, either a large university or a small college, and at a couple of different points they have a crowd, which they're like, well, we're going to turn the crowd off because it's distracting or whatever. But at one point later in the episode where Cisco gets himself ejected from the game and he's in the stands, standing immediately behind him over his right shoulder is a guy who has a big pager tucked into his jeans in that little pocket in your jeans where you're supposed to put coins. And I thought there's nothing more 90s that there are very few things in the 90s Star Trek shows that really date it to the time that it was filmed, because they don't do, except for the obvious exceptions, like Voyager visits the year 1996.
Yeah, so they explicitly tell you that that's what they're doing.
But when it's like, here's holodeck footage of something in the past, it's like, that dude's got a huge pager, so that was something that immediately jumped out that I had never seen.
It's hilarious.
I had never seen, and I've seen this episode, 20 times? I just had never picked that out. So that was hilarious. But what a perfect episode in every way way. So you get the introduction of a new character, which is a really obnoxious Vulcan that Sisko has known forever. But it's his Finnegan. It's his like his cadet bully who he once had a wrestling match with, and Solak beat the shit out of him, which he describes in detail. And it just goes on to be the fact that Solak is, people say, well, Vulcans don't have emotions. Like, Vulcans have emotions.
Vulcans very much have emotions.
They suppress them when they feel like it, and otherwise they can be real dicks. Because just watch Star Trek Enterprise and you'll know, because it happens in that show
I think this episode is where they pulled a lot of that attitude from.
Solak is such a prick.
Then at the end, it's really funny when they razz him and he's just like, "Oh, I'm done."
Yeah. He just walks. Yeah, exactly. He just walks out.
He like pouts his way out of the bar, which is really funny.
And I do love Sisko tries to teach his crew to play baseball. They're fucking terrible. They're
opposition.
They're not really picking up. Worf is probably the only one, because Worf he's a Klingon and he's an athlete, and he probably picks things up.
Aggressive, so it's like
Jake obviously knows how to play. He's been playing with his dad his whole life, but like Rom can't pick it up to save his life. Lita is actually pretty good.
Kind of tries. Lita's decent.
Yeah,
Ezri is.
Kira does great. One of my favorite parts of Kira in this episode had to do with when one of the Vulcan crew members ran onto base, because Kira was second base or something like that, and tries to push her, and Kira posts up on her like, "You want to try that again?" Like, I think even though Vulcans are typically, 3 times stronger than at least a human, I'd like to think Kira could make up the difference, still clock the shit out of a Vulcan. That's what I think.
I mean, if it was a long drawn out fight, the Vulcan might win, but if Kira had surprise,
if she got
take him out.
I just remember my favorite Kira anything is when she beat the crap out of Damar in that first arc in season 6. Yeah. That was fantastic. And we don't really know how strong or fast Cardassians are, but I just love
very satisfying.
I love seeing Nana Visitor do her thing. You're going to be hearing about Nana Visitor a little bit more on our network in the near future. I'm not going to spoil that, but we might be sitting down and have a chat with her. But I will probably very specifically bring up these couple things, favorite moments from DS9. But yeah, this was a 10 out of 10 episode for me.
Oh,
I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, big spoilers. This is probably going to be my favorite of the block. But we still got a couple more to go.
Hilariously, this is also the first time we hear the Federation national anthem.
Yeah,
we don't hear the words, but we hear the tune.
And do you notice that the flag doesn't wave?
Yeah, it was just a little bit. But not
it was just, it's static, like it was in space. So I thought that was fun. But yeah, Federation, and we never hear it again, to my knowledge. I don't know that we do.
I don't think we do. You'd think that you would hear it in Federation Day at some point, but it just doesn't come up.
If they've snuck it in somewhere and I've got that wrong, I'd love to hear about it on our socials.
If someone knows where they played it again, that would be great. It would also be a lovely opportunity for Strange New Worlds to do a remix of it, like a reorchestration of it, because it was a synthesizer in this one.
Yeah, exactly. No, it'd be cool. All right, episode 5 is yours.
Episode 5, Chrysalis, directed by Jonathan West, written by Anaïs Echevarria, aired October 28th of 98. Bashir falls for a genetically enhanced patient, Serena Douglas, who we have seen before with all of the other...
the Jack Pack!
Serena, who he brings out of a catatonic state using an experimental medical procedure. So basically, if you remember the character from season and a half ago... I think,
season 6.
So we met Serena, and she was the catatonic one around Jack and Patrick, and
it's
the other gal's name,
Hillary something. I can't remember.
She's there. Her name is me, but
she's the oversexed one. Jack is the manic one. Patrick is the childlike one, and then she's the one who's catatonic.
So this group comes back. Hilariously, they bring uniforms and stuff.
That's a stupid question.
Yeah, they dress out of all of them, they dress Patrick up as the Admiral. And the beginning of it's really funny, where Nog is like, "Oh, the Admiral's here to see you, Dr. Bashir." It's like, what?
Yeah.
Because the Admiral be here to see Bashir instead of the captain.
And in the middle of the night. And Nog is the dutiful little ensign, like,
it's really funny. But anyway, they bring Serena over, and Bashir has finds a way to get her out of her catatonic state by stimulating some of the, I forget exactly,
Doing some
neural
sciencey shit.
pathways of some
Right.
sort. So she's finally able to speak, and then there's kind of a Florence Nightingale effect that happens. And she kind of falls for him. He definitely falls for her.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a more of a 70-30 kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Well, because again, she's waking up for the first time, and you feel it feels kind of weird because she's vulnerable. Not that I think he behaves in a creepy fashion.
He's not taking advantage. He's just
he's
been really lonely, and so he's like, hey, someone
Right.
actually wants to be around me, and he just latches on.
Yeah, and they do highlight that kind of walking into the episode because he's like with O'Brien saying, "Hey, you want to grab a pint?
O'Brien
I gotta get
does
home."
point it
And
out.
and like I think he says to Kira Noda, like Kira, "Oh, we're busy tonight," or blah blah blah. So he's sitting around twiddling his thumbs, and then that leads us into the episode. So yeah, they have a romance, but at the end of it, she's like, "It's too overwhelming," and I kind of I need to I gotta we go right back to Ellen McBeal again. I gotta find my own way and go off and do my own thing. So she ends up leaving, and they
research station somewhere. We don't see her again.
Yeah,
but.
we don't. They end up having a tender kiss at the end, so you don't necessarily feel like it's over. There is going into beta canon in one of the Section 31 novels. They both end up working for Section 31, doing a mission together, and then hooking up again in that novel. I can't remember the name of the book, but
I mean,
again,
that would make sense. So.
I don't read much, but I remember reading that book. It was probably from 15 or 20 years ago. I mean,
there's a lot of Section 31s around the knots.
Yeah. But I enjoyed the episode, and it was a nice Bashir piece, and it was nice to see the Jack Pack again. I'm glad they didn't beat him to death, and bro, it's not like Q, they got to bring him back every season, but this was the last time we see them. But again, things survive into beta canon, so they're still out there to, potentially have stories to be told. So
I mean, it was a little sad for Bashir because it wasn't quite the same as like a Geordi moment where like everything just falls apart all the time.
Right. Time to be tortured and no girl wants you.
But Bashir does kind of fall into that section of how the writers use him romantically as
section bummer.
Yeah, section bummer.
Ooh, that could be a better. Oh, I just thought a better name for the episode.
Bummer 1.
Section Bummer 1. All right. Oh my god.
So, yeah, but because he's tried to like hook up with Kira, he unsuccessfully tried to hook up with Dax. He had a couple unsuccessful romances with like I forget her name, but the gal in the wheelchair.
Oh, Melora. That was the name of the episode. Yeah.
And so there's been multiple ones, and they always go very badly. But I mean, one of the things in this episode is they do again highlight the fact that like his friends, particularly O'Brien, are trying to help him not be lonely.
Right.
And he's just kind of like, oh, I'm just okay with being sad. It's like, Julian, stop. And you can kind of see O'Brien just be like, I'm the one who gets tortured in this show, Julian. Stop.
Yeah,
stop being tortured. Stop bringing it on yourself.
Stop trying to steal my thunder. Oh my goodness. All right, let's wrap it up with episode 6. Another great one, my God. Yeah. Treachery, Faith, and the Great River. This was the one I messaged you and I said, why is this show so damn good? My goodness.
Great.
Steve Posey handling the directing, story by Philip Kim, who I do not believe is a regular contributor, so that could have something to do with it, kind of a spark. But the cleanup, meaning the teleplay, is by Weddle and Thompson, David and Bradley, respectively, who are regulars to the staff and are still part of, I believe they're still part of Ron's cadre to this day. They still do. I know these guys still work together. Anyway, it's from, November of 98, avorted defector Wayoon number 6, so basically clone number 6, gives Odo valuable information in exchange for asylum. Wayoon 7, who took his place, pursues them, he orders people to pursue them. Nog engages in a series of barters to get a graviton stabilizer for Miles. One of my favorite B stories. I mean, if you want to call it a B story, you can almost call it the A story because it's the name of the episode, sorta. But I mean,
Faith in the Great River is the Nog part. Treachery is the Odo Wayoon part.
So that would make it the A story because treachery is the first word. Yep. There we go. Settled it. What a slam dunk.
Great episode.
The stuff with Wayoon and Odo is very heartfelt. Jeff Combs is amazing. again, somebody I've met several times who I personally just think is a good dude. But his contributions to Star Trek, I feel like in some ways can never be matched. But this is one of his really great performances. And great performances from Damar. This also, we get the first hint of a bigger storyline with the changelings. It happens in this episode with the female changeling looking like she's ill. What could that be about?
Here.
No, exactly. Yes, well, Wayon 6, one of the giveaways that he mentions is that the founders are dying. There's a sickness in the Great Link. Well, we're going to learn more about that as the season goes on.
He can give any more information.
Exactly. Yeah, because he's being hunted because when a clone unit turns out to be defective, they're expected to basically you push under your chin and something behind your ear, and it's a termination in play, and you die.
Yep.
And yeah, when they find in, so Wayoon 7 and Damar, of course, are having Jem'Hadar pursue them through this asteroid field, which I think is some beautiful visuals they pulled off. Early CGI, early CGI. You can obviously tell at least portion of it is. And they do finally catch up with them. Of course, the Jem'Hadar don't know that they're chasing a changeling. Neither does the female changeling because she wouldn't be cool with them blowing Odo away. But eventually, Wayon 6 sacrifices himself so that they'll let him escape.
And then Wayon 7 graciously offers to escort Odo home. It's like,
Odo does
you're about to kill him.
The changeling equivalent of this. But really where this story shines is the entire plot line with Nog and Chief O'Brien. Oh my God. So yeah, it turns into, if anybody's ever worked in sales or had anything to do with business, you understand sales and bartering, and this is the Star Trek equivalent of the famous urban legend of the guy who traded a paperclip for a house. You know what I mean? Because turns out the Defiant is broken. Their graviton stabilizer is off, and they've got to get a new one. Chief's like, well, I can't get one for 3 weeks, and Sisko says, I need one in 2 days. I'm going to Bajor for a conference, and it better be here when I get back. And he's like, what am I gonna do? And Nog's like, I got a great idea. And he starts going through all this rigmarole. Like, there's a guy who has this thing, and there's this other guy that has this thing, and what he wants to exchange for it is a picture of himself at Sisko's desk. Well, in order to do it, Sisko's desk disappears.
It's shipped out to this.
Yeah. And then another guy, this and that. And so I love the replacement desk. He's going to paint it. He can bring in like this white wood piece. Like, it's not going to work.
Clearly like grabbed from the prop department before it was done. And,
right.
I think it was probably made for this episode, but it felt like it was something that like you could have arguably had like, oh, we're going to use this in like the end of the season where it's just not ready yet. I have a perfect spot for it. Plunk.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, we'll just keep it over here in the corner. My favorite part of that is at the end of it, obviously, it gets worked out and they get the desk back and they get,
Martok's bloodline.
Martok's bloodline is another one.
Miles gets murdered by
because Nog does the like radar and mash. He's like, just sign this, and he takes Chief's code and he makes all these trades behind the scenes, and all the while he's talking about the Great Material Continuum, which is a Ferengi truism, if you will, about how the river will provide. You do this thing comes back to you. It's like karma. It's karma.
Yeah, it basically is. Yeah.
It's Ferengi karma. And then at the end of it, I do love how the last line of dialogue we hear is that they're in ops. Nog and the Chief get into the turbo lift and they're going down again. And he's saying, hey, Chief, I got a guy who's got a great line on blah, 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 this, or a bunch of Saurian brandy. I hear it's the captain's favorite. And the last line in the turbo lift is half down. Remember, the turbo lift is open, so you just see the top star head. The Chief goes, well, what does he want for it? And I said that right before he said that, not even necessarily thinking that was the line. I was like, well, what does he want for it? Because he's dealing. He's selling. He's selling.
It's one of those where O'Brien is like, wait a minute, I can get things that I need without having to go through requisitions. This is great.
Exactly. Yeah, now he's learning how to play the game. Just reinforces, and again, on a bigger picture, it reinforces how Star Trek is about the greatness of all races that inhabit this world, and that everybody has different perspectives, and it's IDIC, all over again. Everybody's got different ideas about how to make things work. So, oh my God, what an incredible
It's such a great episode.
6-pack. Yeah, that and the 6-pack of episodes. So easy pick for me. My absolute favorite is going to be Take Me Out to the Holosuite. And I said this was a near perfect everything of a fun episode that, again, the stakes are, it's not life or death stakes, which is what this show, sets its watch to life and death stakes. So it's great to take a break from that. Usually it's a Ferengi episode. This time it's a Cisco episode doing something silly, which is funny because he's such a serious character. But they just nail it on all cylinders here. So that's my favorite. What about you?
I want to say that one, but I'm going to go with Treachery, Faith in the Great River just because I so much enjoy Nog making life hell for O'Brien while in the middle of trying to make it better.
Yeah.
But then you also have like the teasing of things to come with the sickness of the changelings and some really good stuff between Weyoun and Odo.
Right.
So there's just some really good stuff in the episode as like a full-fledged story. Take Me Out to the Holosuite is great. It's like this close. I want it, but it's just like there's just some stuff about Treachery, Faith in the Great River that made me laugh a lot more.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, yeah, 2/10%. And again, with a group of these 6 great episodes, like how do you kill your darling? How do you pick the worst one? Chrysalis for me was the weakest. Again, it was an episode. It was low stakes, but it was also like, oh, Brian's lonely, and here's a girl, and he's happy for a minute, and now she's gone. So I didn't find it irredeemable. And again, the Jack Pack is very entertaining, but when it has this stiff a competition. With setting up a great new character in the form of Ezri Dax, and then in the Holosuite episode and the Treachery, Faith in the Great River, it just can't compete.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that's. I don't want to say it's the worst, but it's the weakest episode out of the bunch.
Yeah,
it's still got a good story. There's still some good stuff going on, but the other ones are just much more interesting.
Competition. Excellent. Well, cool. Well, that's going to end up being our show. In our next segment, we're tackling, next episode, we're tackling episodes 2 and 3 of Strange New Worlds. And then the next block of episodes here in DS9. God, I'm going to be so very sad to say goodbye to the series because for me, and everybody has different takes, I cut my teeth on TNG, but they've never done anything as good as DS9. And I don't know that they ever could, to be perfectly honest with you. It was to me, it was lightning in a bottle that just can't ever necessarily be captured again. But the beauty of it is we get to enjoy it, but we also get to enjoy other things that come along. So thanks everybody for joining us. It's great to be back after some time off. Peter, where do people find you out there?
You can find me around the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas on most social platforms. I'm not active, but you can find me.
He's going to be there.
Yeah, mostly where you can find me though is on Discord. So on the Secret Friends Unite Discord, I'm around there too, participating in some random conversations. You can also find me on ELH's Twitch and YouTube channel, where I am playing a Temerian engineer on a coaxial warp drive starship. And you can also find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior.
I guess there are places where you are. I always forget to mention, but we do have an email address dedicated to your notes, secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about the episode. If you love that first episode of Strange New Worlds and we got it wrong, tell us. But you can also tell us, obviously, over on our socials. Our Secret Friends Unite Discord is open to everybody. Great conversations happen there. Find it on Discord. If you don't, ping one of us for a note. We'll send you an invitation and get you in right away. But you can find me on kind of my big 3 when it comes to social media. That would be Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky as at the C3, TheCeeThree, doing my thing and enjoying talking about geek stuff, etc. Well, with that, we will bid you adieu. Thanks for tuning back in. We're also very excited to start talking to you about Star Wars over on Holocron Chronicles. You're going to hear that within the next several weeks of us taking that show over. It should be pretty seamless. But we're excited to have you there. But as always, I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member. Get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.